The storm had no mercy. Darren Creed stumbled through thick snow, his boots sinking deep with every step. His face was numb. His gloved hands trembled as he tried to keep the emergency beacon alive. But the screen was dead, batteries frozen. Wind howled in his ears, loud like a screaming beast. He had crash-landed just 2 hours ago, but already, it felt like the planet wanted him dead. His shuttle had spun out of control after a fuel line froze during orbit. He'd tried to glide it down safely, but the landing was rough. The hull cracked. Fire burned out. Everything inside was cold, broken, and useless. Only the emergency suit had kept him from freezing immediately. Darren's breath came in sharp gasps. The temperature was falling fast below -50. He couldn't last long in the open. He saw shapes in the distant stone towers, crooked and half buried in snow. Maybe ruins. Maybe shelter. He pushed forward, one hand gripping the strap of his pack, the other shielding his face. Ice formed on his eyebrows. His lips cracked. His legs moved like stone. But he kept walking. He reached the first ruin, some kind of alien structure. The walls were tall, curved, like frozen bones rising from the ground. He stepped inside, boots crunching against frozen sand and ice. The wind died inside. Silence. He dropped to his knees, breathing hard. The shelter wasn't much as 4 walls and a broken roof, but it was better than the storm. He pulled out his emergency flare, snapped it to life, and placed it near the wall. The red light glowed softly, revealing frost-covered carvings on the walls. Strange symbols, old, abandoned. As he leaned back, a sound made him freeze. Footsteps. Soft. Behind him. He turned fast, his heart slamming in his chest. Nothing. The red flare flickered. Then a shape moved, barely visible in the dark corner of the ruins. He reached for his emergency knife. "Who's there?" he said, voice hoarse and weak. No answer. The figure stepped forward, slowly, bare feet on ice, thin arms. A shape wrapped in scraps of cloth, glowing slightly under the red light. She looked like a woman, but not human. Her skin was a soft violet gray. Her hair was long and silver, tangled. Her eyes glowed like twin moons, pale yellow and full of strange emotion. She was tall, slim, and barefoot in the snow. Darren stood still, not sure what to do. She was no threat. She looked cold, thin, and sad. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft, warm, and unlike any language he knew, but the translator in his suit kicked in after a second. "Human. You are freezing." Darren didn't answer. She stepped closer. "Take my heat," she whispered. Then she moved fast. Before Darren could step back, she wrapped her arms around him. Her body was warm, shockingly warm, like fire wrapped in skin. Darren gasped. She held him tight, pressing her chest to his, arms locking around his back. He should have pushed her away, but instead, he felt the warmth sinking into his bones. "You'll freeze," he whispered. "No," she said simply. "I'm used to cold. You are not." He didn't know what to say. He didn't understand what she was or why she was here. But right now, his heartbeat was slowing, and her warmth was saving him. She led him, slowly, to a corner where she had built a small fire pit from old alien tech. Blue flames danced above strange rocks. She sat him beside it, still holding him gently like a blanket. Darren tried to ask questions, but his mouth was too dry, too tired. He just stared at her face. She wasn't beautiful in the way humans understood it, but something about her was striking. Her eyes looked ancient, tired, and kind. "What's your name?" he finally asked. She paused. Then said softly, "Senna." "Why did you help me?" Senna looked into the fire. "Because you were colder than I was." He didn't know how to respond. Silence returned. The wind screamed outside the ruins, but in here, there was stillness. Then, far in the distance, something echoed, a sharp metallic sound. Darren lifted his head. "What was that?" Senna's face turned hard. Her eyes narrowed. "They found you," she said quietly. "Who?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stood up slowly, her glowing eyes scanning. "The shadows. We have to go." Darren tried to rise, but his legs were still stiff. She reached down, grabbed his arm, and pulled him to his feet with surprising strength. As they moved toward the deeper ruins, Darren's heart pounded again, not from the cold this time, but from the fear that something was hunting them both. Darren followed her into the deeper part of the ruins. The blue fire flickered behind them, swallowed by the cold and shadows. Wind howled through the cracks in the stone, but where they walked now there was only silence. Senna moved like a shadow herself, light on her feet, quiet, every step sure, even without shoes. Darren could barely keep up. His legs were still, weak, his breath short, but he pushed forward. She led him down a crumbling stairwell, carved into the ice-covered rock. Frost covered the steps like a silver skin. His boots slipped twice, and she caught him both times without saying a word. Below, the passage opened into a hidden chamber, a ceiling of broken crystal, walls lined with glowing fungus. The air was warmer here, just a little, enough to feel different. Darren looked around in shock. "You live here?" She nodded. "This is one of the old places. Forgotten. The patrols do not come here." He stared at the strange tech embedded in the walls. It wasn't human-made, but it looked advanced: wires, faded screens, glowing nodes pulsing like slow heartbeats. Senna walked to a corner where a cracked alien bed was covered with old cloth. She pulled a worn blanket free and placed it over Darren's shoulders. He sat down slowly. "Who are you really?" he asked. "And what was that sound up there?" She sat across from him, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her glowing eyes didn't blink. "They are hunters," she said at last. "Machines mixed with flesh, cold minds. They look for ones like me." "Like you? Why?" Senna hesitated. Then she placed one hand over her heart. "I was born wrong, according to them. My body creates too much heat. It was not planned. They said I was unstable, unclean." Darren blinked. "You were exiled." "For being warm?" She nodded slowly. "They threw me from the skycraft. I fell here. I survived. I thought I was the only one left." Darren stared at her, speechless. She looked down, her voice soft. "Then I saw your ship fall, like a star crashing. I thought maybe I would not be alone anymore." A strange silence fell between them. Darren's hands trembled, but not from cold anymore, from something else. She had saved his life. Now she was sharing her last safe place with him, and something out there was still searching. "You said machines mixed with flesh," he said. "What do they want with me?" Senna looked up, her eyes dark and serious. "You are human, rare here. They might think you're valuable or dangerous." "I'm just a pilot," Darren muttered. "I'm not dangerous." She stood suddenly and pressed a finger to his lips. "Quiet." Her ears twitched, alien ears long pointed. She turned to the far wall. Her steps were fast and soundless. Darren heard it too barely, a low hum. Mechanical. Getting closer. Senna grabbed a round piece of old alien metal, almost like a manhole cover, and pulled it aside, revealing a tunnel in the floor. "Down," she said. Darren didn't argue. He slid in first, the air inside the tunnel colder, tighter. She followed and pulled the cover shut behind them. Darkness. She switched on a tiny light, something she had crafted herself. It glowed blue, just enough to see. The tunnel was narrow and curved, going deeper underground. "Where does this go?" Darren asked. "Far away," she said. "To another ruin. Abandoned even longer." They crawled for minutes that felt like hours. Darren's knees scraped against ice-covered stone. He breathed hard. His back ached. Behind them, a deep clang rang out. They froze. Something above them was moving the cover they just sealed. Senna whispered, "They've entered." A cold chill ran down Darren's spine that had nothing to do with temperature. He turned to her. "Do they know where the tunnel leads?" She shook her head. "Maybe, if they scan heat trails." Darren nodded, clenched his teeth, and moved. Faster. They reached a forked 2 tunnels. Senna pointed to the left. "It leads to the outer wall. I left old clothes there. If we go fast, we can throw them as decoys. The machines may follow the wrong path." Darren nodded, but his heart pounded louder now. As they turned left, he whispered, "How long have you lived like this?" Senna didn't answer at first. Then she said, "Since I was thrown out. I counted 900 moons, then I stopped counting." He stopped crawling. "You've been alone for years?" Senna looked over her shoulder, her face half lit by the blue light. "I had the ruins, the heat, and now I have you." He didn't know what to say. Suddenly, a screech echoed through the tunnel behind them, metal grinding on metal. The machines were moving fast. They ran now, crawling, stumbling, slipping. Darren felt the cold nipping at his skin again. But it wasn't just cold anymore. It was fear, and something worse. Something mechanical was getting closer. The tunnel opened into a cavern, a massive one, hidden deep beneath the ice. Darren blinked against the sudden blue glow. Crystals lined the walls like frozen stars. The air was warmer, but the silence was heavy, like the place hadn't heard voices in 100 years. Senna didn't stop to admire it. She pulled Darren behind a jagged stone, motioning him to keep low. Her silver eyes flicked toward the tunnel they had just crawled through. "Wait," she whispered. Darren crouched beside her, heart racing. His breath came fast and shallow. Nothing moved. Then a faint clicking sound echoed from the dark tunnel. 1, 2, 3, click dash click dash. Click. Darren clenched his jaw. Something was crawling down the stone path, something not made for kindness. A shadow passed over the tunnel mouth, long arms, a steel spine, legs that bent wrong. Its face was not a face, just a glowing lens and teeth of polished alloy. It didn't walk. It glided like it didn't need the ground at all. Darren dared not breathe. The creature paused at the edge of the cavern. Its lens flicked red, then blue, then stopped on the floor. On footprints. Senna cursed under her breath. "It sees heat. Signatures." Darren leaned in. "What do we do?" She looked at him, her voice calm but urgent. "We give it something louder to chase." Without waiting, she reached into her satchel and pulled out a small metal disc, cracked, old, but humming. She tossed it across the cavern. It hit a crystal wall with a sharp chime. The machine spun fast and raced after the sound, limbs slicing the air. "Now," Senna whispered. They moved. Fast. Quiet. She led him through a narrow crack in the cavern wall that opened into a steep passage. Water dripped from above, melting ice, maybe heated by the crystals. The path sloped downward sharply. Darren slipped once, landing hard, but Senna caught his arm before he slid. "You okay?" He nodded, even though pain shot through his side. "Keep going." She helped him up, and they moved deeper. After minutes of winding paths, they reached a door. Old, alien, circular and made of dull metal, with a glowing triangle at its center. It looked sealed. Senna pressed her hand to the triangle. Nothing. She pressed harder. Whispered in her own language. Still nothing. Then she looked at Darren. "Touch it with me." He hesitated but placed his hand over hers. The door clicked, then slowly, loudly opened inward. Dust blew out. The room inside was pitch black, until the lights, ancient alien orbs in the ceiling, flickered on, one by one, bathing the chamber in gold and green. Inside were rows of stasis pods. Dozens. Darren stepped inside, eyes wide. "What is this place?" Senna moved slowly, looking. At each pod, it was a birthing station, she said softly. "My people once used these to grow life without mothers." Darren walked past a pod filled with mist. Inside was something not fully formed. A creature with eyes like Senna's, but much smaller. Are they alive? No, not anymore. The power ran out decades ago. Maybe longer. She stopped at a cracked pod and placed her hand against it. This one was mine, she whispered. Darren turned. You were born here? Yes, I woke up alone, cold. I learned to walk by touching these walls. He felt something twist in his chest. No parents, no names, no songs, just the heat from the walls. Senna stepped back from the pod. Her face showed nothing, but her voice trembled a little. Once, I thought I was one of many. But I was the only one who survived. The others, she pointed at the pods, were recycled. They didn't match the code. Darren stared at her. You're telling me they killed babies for being different? They were not seen as real. She said, just mistakes. And you? I ran. They stood there in silence, surrounded by the ghosts of a forgotten science lab. Then a sound broke the stillness. Metal on stone. The sound was louder now. Closer. The hunter was back. Senna turned fast. There's another way out, through the cryo vents. But it's tight. You'll have to crawl. Darren nodded. Let's go. But Senna didn't move. I'll lead it away, she said. No, Darren snapped. You're not going alone. She looked at him, those glowing eyes. Softer now. You still have a home to return to. I don't. Darren stepped forward and grabbed her wrist. You saved me once. I'm not leaving you behind. For a second she just stared. Then her fingers tightened around his. Outside, the sound came. Again, closer. Then we run, she said. Together, he replied. They turned, hand in hand, and ran into the darkness toward the vents, toward the unknown, toward a future neither of them could yet see. Behind them, the cryo chamber lit up red. The hunter had found them again. The cryo vents were narrow, far tighter than Darren expected. Sharp frost bit at his arms as he crawled forward, his back scraping metal. The air was thick and stale, filled with the smell of old chemicals and frozen time. Behind him, Senna moved quietly, but her breaths were faster than before. They're following, she whispered. How close? Close enough to smell heat. Darren didn't want to know what that meant. The tunnel bent sharply. He pushed through the curve, then slid down a slick slope, ice and gravity doing the work. He landed hard on metal with a grunt. Seconds later, Senna landed beside him with the grace of someone used to falling. A red light blinked overhead. She looked up. We're beneath the generator vault now. It's dead. But it may still have scraps of power. Darren stood up slowly, using the wall for support. Can we use it? Maybe, but the risk is high. If we wake it, the patrols will see the surge. Darren looked at her. And if we don't? She looked at his shaking hands. His skin was pale again. His body couldn't take much more cold. You won't survive the next hour. He nodded once, then wake it. She moved toward the control panel. It was ancient, cracked, rusted, covered in frost. Her fingers hovered over strange symbols, glowing faintly beneath the ice. Then, with a soft whisper in her native tongue, she pressed 3 buttons in order. The floor shook. A deep, rumbling hum rolled through the walls like the planet was breathing for the first time in years. Then, lights, soft yellow. A heater on the far side of the vault flickered to life, glowing faintly. Warm air spilled out like a whisper from a memory. Darren sighed, feeling life return to his limbs. But Senna stood frozen. He turned to her. What's wrong? She didn't look at him. They'll see this. Then we run, he said. Again, but Senna didn't move. They won't just come now. They'll send a command drone. One that calls for orbital strikes. He blinked. You're saying they'll nuke this place? She nodded slowly. To erase the mistake. Darren looked around at the room, the pods, the machines, the history. All of it forgotten by time, but dangerous enough for them to destroy. He clenched his fists. We're not mistakes." She finally looked at him. "You believe that?" "Yes," he said. "You saved my life, more than once. I'm standing because of you. Breathing because of you." He paused. "You've lived alone in the dark for so long, but you still chose to help me. That's not a mistake, that's humanity." Her glowing eyes softened. Then the sound came. Hoomp, hoomp. Something was landing above them. A different sound from before. Heavier, rhythmic. Not the quiet metal crawl of the hunter machines. This was worse. Senna whispered. "They've sent the sentinel." Darren grabbed the heat pack and stuffed it into his coat. "What's that?" She didn't answer. She was already running. He followed her through a cracked hallway on the left, this one lined with half-dead machines and shattered glass. One side opened into a shaft so deep, Darren couldn't see the bottom. "We climb," Senna said. "You serious?" She pointed to old metal rails along the wall. "It's the only way out." Without waiting, she leapt and grabbed a rail with both hands, then began pulling herself up like it was nothing. Darren stared, then followed. The metal was freezing. His arms screamed from the effort. But he climbed. 1 step. 2. 10, 20. Below, the vault glowed red. Then came the roar. The sentinel entered the chamber they just left. Through cracks in the shaft wall, Darren saw a massive body 10 feet tall, made of black armor and pulsing light. Its head rotated, scanning heat and movement. It stopped, then turned upward. A beam of red light fired into the shaft, missing Darren's foot by inches. He shouted, "Faster!" Senna was already near the top. She kicked something loose, a slab of metal, and it crashed down the shaft, striking the beam mid-air. Sparks flew. The light fizzled. "Climb!" she yelled. Darren pushed harder. They reached a hatch. She slammed her hand against it. "Nothing," he yelled. "Let me try." He reached into his coat, pulled out a cracked human signal flare, and jammed it into the panel. The hatch clicked open. They fell through, just as the shaft behind them exploded. Fire lit the space below them, but the hatch slammed shut. Silence. Only the sound of 2 people breathing. Then Senna said, "That was too close." Darren laughed, a dry, tired sound. "I miss simple storms and frozen fingers." Senna smiled faintly. "You're strange, human." He looked at her. "Strange enough to stay with you?" She paused, then whispered, "You already have." But their peace didn't last long. On the far wall, a screen flickered to life. An alien face appeared, metal mask, red eyes. It spoke in a deep voice. "You have 30 minutes to surrender the hybrid, or be erased." Darren looked at Senna. "What do they mean by hybrid?" Senna said nothing, not yet, but something in her eyes had changed, something she hadn't told him yet. The flickering screen faded to black. Silence returned, thick, heavy, pressing. Darren turned to Senna. She stood still, her eyes fixed where the masked face had been. Her shoulders were tense. Her glowing hands hung at her sides, trembling. "Senna," he said slowly, "what did he mean by hybrid?" She didn't answer at first. He stepped closer. "You said they exiled you for being warm, but that's not the whole truth, is it?" She still didn't look at him. Finally she whispered, "No, it's not." A soft hum filled the room. The hatch behind them sealed completely. Overhead, red warning lights blinked slowly. Senna walked to a dusty console and wiped off years of grime with her sleeve. The screen blinked ancient data logs and alien symbols. "I was part of an experiment," she said. "A secret one, forbiddens." Darren frowned. "What kind of experiment?" Senna tapped a command into the screen. Console displayed a symbol Darren recognized. Earth. He froze. "My creators wanted to test outside DNA. They found human blood during the early space age, before your kind knew we were watching. They mixed it with ours." She turned to him now. Her voice was steady but soft. "My body is alien, but my mind, my empathy, my emotions, My connection to heat, those parts were taken from humans. Darren's chest tightened. You're part human? She nodded. Not many knew. Those who did called me a threat. They said I was unstable. They feared what might happen if the human traits grew stronger. Darren sat down slowly, stunned. But why hunt you now? He asked. After all this time? They received a signal, she said. When your ship crashed, something activated. My DNA recognized yours. It awoke systems that were asleep for decades. He looked up. Wait, so you reacted to me? That's why you found me so fast? Yes, I didn't know it then. But when I touched you, something unlocked inside me. A connection, something buried. She reached for a metal box beside the console. Inside was a thin strand of glowing metal, almost like a bracelet. She wrapped it around her wrist. It's a biosync link. If I bond with you again, we can activate a deeper layer of the vault systems, maybe even escape. Darren blinked. You want to bond with me? She looked him in the eyes. Only if you want to. He hesitated. His heart pounded not out of fear, but something else. Awe, maybe, wonder, or trust. I do, he said. Senna stepped forward and pressed her wrist against his. The bracelet glowed, and then heat surged through his arm, like liquid fire in starlight. He gasped, but didn't pull away. Senna didn't either. For a brief moment, their minds brushed. He saw flashes of her falling from a ship, crawling through snow, learning to speak by copying machine voices, crying in the dark alone, and she saw him young, building model ships, laughing with his sister, then crashing into ice and believing it was his last day alive. When they pulled away, the console lit up fully this time. A hidden door opened on the side wall, revealing a sleek chamber with an old escape pod half buried in frost, but intact. Senna looked at it, amazed. I thought this place was sealed forever. Darren grinned. Well, maybe your human side is just stubborn. They moved toward the pod. As they entered the chamber, a distant boom echoed above them. The Sentinel had started its attack. We don't have much time, Senna said. She climbed into the pilot's chair, pressing buttons rapidly. It needs fuel. Wait, the reactor. She rushed back to the console. Darren followed, but just as she began rerouting power, another screen lit up. This one showed Earth's logo and a single blinking message. Signal received. Human life detected. Recovery vessel inbound. Darren's eyes widened. That's from my fleet, but Senna's face fell. No, she whispered. That's not rescue. He looked at her, confused. Long ago, she said, they warned my people. If human DNA ever appeared on this world again, Earth would come back to finish the job. You're saying the humans knew? She nodded. And now they think I'm a weapon. Another boom. Closer. Darren looked at her, fierce. You're not a weapon. You're proof we can be more. She held his gaze. Then help me prove it. Together, they finished rerouting the power. The escape pod began to hum, lights flashing green, but above them, steel tore open. The Sentinel dropped through the ceiling, landing hard. It didn't speak. It raised its arm, energy building. Senna stepped in front of Darren. Darren shouted, No! The Sentinel fired. And the screen went white. Asterisk white light swallowed everything. For a second, Darren thought he had died. No sound, no pain. Just light burning, endless. Then his eyes adjusted. Senna stood in front of him, still alive, still standing, but something was wrong. Her skin, once glowing violet gray, was now flickering like a signal breaking. Her legs trembled. Her arms shook. She had caught the blast, but not with armor. With her body. Smoke curled from her back. Darren rushed forward, grabbing her before she fell. Senna! Stay with me, look at me. She blinked slowly. Her eyes, still glowing, met his. I redirected the charge. The bond let me absorb some of it. He held her tighter. But you're hurt. Bad. She gave a weak smile. First time I've ever had someone say that. Behind them, the sentinel recharged. Sparks danced along its arms. Its lens refocused. Darren looked around wildly. The escape pod was powered, doors open, systems blinking. He pulled Senna up. Come on, just a little more. She leaned into him. Her legs barely worked, but she moved with him step by step. The sentinel stepped forward. The pod doors began to close. They dove inside. The doors sealed with a hiss, just as the sentinel launched a second blast. The pod shook. The lights flickered, but held inside. Darren laid Senna down gently. Her breath was shallow. Her skin was dimming, like a star fading. No, 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 don't fade, not now, he whispered. She reached up and touched his face. You're warm now, she whispered. That's all I wanted. Don't talk like that. You're not dying, she smiled. I'm not afraid. Not if you remember me. He grabbed her hand and held it tight. Don't say goodbye, not yet. Outside, the pod's engines began to roar. Ice cracked. Stone shifted. They were launching. Darren sat beside her, one arm wrapped around her, eyes on the screen. He saw the world fall away, white snow. Black machines, ruined towers. Velma Rue, the planet that tried to kill him and gave him her, but suddenly, another warning flashed on the screen. Incoming ship Earth designation. 60 seconds. Darren's heart stopped. Senna, he whispered. They're almost here. She didn't respond. He looked down. Her chest still rose. Barely. He tapped the console fast, trying to access comms. He spoke, voice shaking. This is Lieutenant Darren Creed of the Terran Cargo Corps. I've escaped the surface of Vilmara. I have someone with me. She's not a threat. She's not a weapon. He looked at Senna. She's the bravest person I've ever known. There was a pause, then a cold voice answered through static. Identify the hybrid. Prepare for separation. Darren froze. What separation? Hybrid samples will be extracted. Organic form will not survive full recovery. He stared at the console. They didn't want to rescue her. They wanted to dissect her. His jaw tightened. He looked at her again. Her lips moved. Barely a whisper. Don't let them erase me. And that broke something inside him. He opened the panel beneath the console, yanked the comm wires free. The voice cut off. Silence returned. Darren activated manual override. Set a new course. Away from the Earth. Fleet. He knew they'd chase him. He didn't care. He wasn't going to let the last light from Vilmara be torn apart by people too afraid to understand her. New course locked. The system said softly, "Where are we going?" Came Senna's weak voice. He looked down at her, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. Somewhere warm. Her lips curled faintly. You really are strange. Yeah, must be the human part. They sat together as the stars stretched. Out beyond the window, her head rested on his shoulder. His arm wrapped around her gently. The ship flew silent across the black, carrying two souls who should never have met, but saved each other just in time. Then another alert flashed. Multiple ships in pursuit. Terran fleet closing. Weapons. Armed. Darren looked at her again. I won't let them take you. Senna opened her eyes, weak but steady. Then let me help you. One last time. He frowned. No, you need rest. She shook her head. You have human fire. I have alien. Code. Together, we're more. He paused. Then slowly nodded. They joined hands again. The bracelet reactivated brighter. This time, the ship glowed. The engines roared with a heat no Terran design ever knew. The pursuing fleet blinked into view. But ahead stars waited. And somewhere, there was a place for those the universe tried to erase. They just had to reach it first. The stars streaked past the window. Darren sat in silence, his hands still wrapped around Senna's. Her breathing was shallow but steady. The glow from her skin had dimmed, but not gone. Behind them, Earth's warships followed like silent wolves. Their engines were faster, stronger, built to kill, but they didn't know what this ship was carrying now. It wasn't just a fugitive escape pod anymore. It was hope. And a secret both sides wanted buried. A soft beep broke the silence. Human. Vessel, halt your course, came the sharp voice over emergency comms. You are harboring illegal hybrid life. Surrender or face destruction. Darren looked at Senna. She opened her eyes slowly. They won't stop, he nodded. Then neither will we. Senna reached into the panel near her seat and pulled out a thin silver rod. It shimmered faintly, technology Darren didn't recognize. I was never supposed to survive, she said. But they gave me something, a failsafe, in case I ever had to end it all. Darren's eyes widened. You're not thinking. I don't want to die, she said gently. But I don't want to be their prisoner either. Darren stood fast. Then we run, together. She looked up. There's one way. She handed him the rod. This is a memory beacon. It holds everything inside me. My thoughts, my feelings, my code. He stared at it. Why give it to me? Because you'll protect it, she said softly. Even if I don't make it. He gripped the rod tightly. You will make it. Suddenly, alarms screamed through the pod. Missiles incoming. Impact in 30 seconds. Darren didn't think. He ran to the console. The engine core was already overheating from the bond energy, but something inside him said, push harder. He turned the controls toward a dying moon nearby, a rock with broken towers and buried power signals. A forgotten base. He slammed the throttle. The ship lurched violently. Behind them, the missiles followed, but the sudden dive confused their pathing systems. 15 seconds. The system warned. Darren turned to Senna. Hold on, she reached out. Their fingers touched. The pod dropped through the moon's cracked atmosphere, ice and rock flying past the hull. Below, a crater opened, a docking tunnel. Ancient and half collapsed. Darren aimed straight for it. 5 seconds. He gritted his teeth. The pod smashed through the tunnel wall. Missiles crashed into the rock just behind them, exploding in the sky. Too late, the shockwave hit the ground, sending waves of dust and ice across the surface. But the pod, though, cracked and blackened, held together. Inside, silence. Darren's body ached. Smoke drifted from the walls. Sparks flew. He turned to Senna. She wasn't moving. Senna, he whispered. No answer. He unbuckled, crawled to her side, and pressed 2 fingers to her neck. A pulse weak. He exhaled. Then, the console blinked again. New message. Different symbol. Not Earth. Alien script. He tapped it. The screen translated slowly. Velmari ecosystems detected. Hybrid core matched. Gate protocol opening. The floor trembled. Beneath them, an elevator platform began to move, taking the pod down. Darren stared in disbelief. Senna, what did you lead us to? As they descended, massive lights flickered on. Rows of ships. Towers of technology. A hidden city built underground, waiting for something. Or someone. Then the final message appeared on the screen. Hybrid accepted. Sanctuary active. Welcome home. Darren couldn't speak. He turned to Senna again. Her eyes opened slowly. She whispered, you made it. No, he said softly. We made it. She smiled, weak but real. This place, she said. It was built by the ones who believed in peace. Before they were silenced, they hid it, waiting for someone like us. Darren looked out the window at the glowing towers below. Then let's wake it up. He helped her to her feet, supporting her as they stepped out of the pod. The platform extended into a glowing walkway, sensors scanning them as they passed. Doors opened. Machines whirred. Lights flickered on across the whole city. A voice echoed around them. Not mechanical but alive, gentle. Welcome, Senna, welcome. Darren Creed, you are not alone anymore. Senna leaned against him, smiling. "For the first time," she whispered, "I believe it." Darren looked up at the towers stretching toward the cavern roof behind them. The warship searched empty skies. But down here, beneath the frozen rock, something new had begun. Not war, not fear, but a place where human and alien could become something more. Together,